everywhere. Older people. It is estimated that by the year 2030, there will be 72 million people over the age of 65. They're shopping at stores, spending money. They're eating at restaurants. They work. They worship. They learn. They take care of others. They have important ideas. Older people do pretty much the same things younger people do, but there is one serious difference. If older people encounter difficulty that make it hard for them to take care of themselves in some way, if they lose their job and need to find a new one, or if they find they can't remember as well as they used to, they often suddenly find that they have become second-class citizens. Society decides that they are over the hill and disengaged from life, and moving to a nursing home is just part of what can be expected to happen. This is ageism, a prejudice against people of advanced age that is prevalent in our country. Its effects are lethal. It robs elders of their potential, seriously escalates the cost of their health care long term, and cuts society off from the wisdom they have acquired through having the most years of life experience of any of us. Changing how we deal with elders and how we face elderhood ourselves is what this program is all about. All of us can make a difference. If you were told to identify the letters shown here, what would you see? A B? But what if you were told to expect a number? What number would you identify? Most of you would probably see the number 13. This exercise demonstrates what happens when you have a preset or a preconceived notion of what you are about to see. You see what you expect to see. If you look at this drawing and are told to identify which one is longer, you would probably choose the figure on the right. If you did, you would be wrong. They are both the same length. The way that they are drawn leaves the impression that one is longer. A careful measurement with a ruler, however, shows that they are the same length. You can also be influenced by where you focus. Can you see the vase? Now, look again. Can you see the faces? Now, shift back and forth. They are both there. You can choose which one you see. Finally, what do you see in this picture? If you said a motorcycle, you would be wrong. You failed to see the big picture. In much the same way as these diagrams, our expectations of what we see, biases that influence our thinking, where we choose to focus, and our failure to see the big picture all significantly influence our perception of advanced age. Researchers have consistently found that in our culture, elders are seen as inept, infirm, incompetent, and insignificant, over the hill with little to contribute.
When we have a preset about what elders are like, we then tend to see what we expected. Subtle clues such as gray hair or wrinkled skin trigger our impression. If an older person has limitations such as poor mobility or some memory problems, we're more likely to focus on those problems rather than also seeing their strengths and abilities, which are much more important. Our stereotypes of what advanced age looks like result in our failure to see the whole person, physically, psychologically, socially, and spiritually, and to work with all of them together to maximize an elder's potential.
A stereotype is a set of attributes that are generalized to an entire group of people, as if the members of the group were all the same. When the stereotypes are negative or derogatory, it becomes a prejudice or bias against that group. Researchers have found widespread prejudice against elders in our society. This is not a conscious choice to dislike old people. Rather, it is embedded in the ageist belief in the cultures that hold that those of advanced age are over the hill, incompetent, doddering but dear, rigid, bad smelling, unpleasant, confused, likely to urinate in their pants, people who can't learn new things, outdated, too expensive and not worth maintaining. These impressions of what advanced age is like are subtle reinforcements over and over again in our culture. From references to having a senior moment to talk show pundits complaining about the cost of Medicare, the impression is perpetuated that elders are inept, incompetent, infirm, and insignificant. Comedians love to make jokes about elders.
I'll tell you something. My family's from the Appalachian Mountains of Kentucky. Okay, now that's not my fault. And I love my family, albeit when I go to family reunions, I have often looked at them and thought, you know, if I had a handgun, I could clean up some of this trash. But my grandmother is 109 years old. Now, women in my family live a really, really, really long time, and I have made that my goal to carry on that tradition of becoming some gnarled up, nasty beef jerky looking, rust farting, crinkled up piece of crap.
Visit any party shop and you will find banners announcing that the guest of honor is now over the hill, may need emergency briefs because of the risk of accidents, has a failing memory, and can now be labeled as old geezer. Birthday cards declare that the person can now expect vision, hearing, thinking, walking, and elimination problems, and we then laugh at them because of those problems. As a society, we would never think it okay to laugh at somebody experiencing mental or physical disabilities. Yet if a person is old, making fun of their disabilities is acceptable. The perception associated with advanced age has changed through time. In colonial America, elders were revered and respected. They were the landowners and the head of the family and the keepers of wisdom. Elders were seen as gifts by God to have leadership roles in society, having developed their talents and gifts over a lifetime. The fashion of the times included powdered wigs for both men and women to help them look older, as well as bustles and petticoats enabled younger women to have the desired pear-shaped figure common in older women. Things changed with the Industrial Revolution. Young men moved off the family farm, seeking to make their fortunes in the factories of the cities. Strong, healthy, youthful males were most desirable for the manufacturing line. The newly valued role of being young began to compete with the revered role of the senior statesman as the American economy shifted from the dominance of agriculture to a nation engaged in the Industrial Revolution. At about the same time, the field of medicine began to come of age. Scientific medicine, influenced by a newly industrialized society, adopted a body-as-machine model to explain disease processes. Old bodies began to be perceived as simply worn-out machines that needed to be replaced with newer models. The shift from a society where the power base was dominated by elders to a society where youth were seen as most important became solidly established following World War II. A concept known as disengagement theory was developed. This idea held that it was the moral duty of the older worker to get out of the way to make room for the younger employees, those who held the future in their hands. In later years, disengagement theory was identified as false and merely a veiled way to get older, better paid workers to retire, replace them with younger, much less expensive employees. By then, however, the die had been cast, and the older workers had come to be seen as rigid, unable to learn new things, sickly, and needing to be replaced, ushering in the widespread prejudice of ageism.